Welcome to Digital Art and Design 1. Today I am going to run through the first exercise of this class, which is creating a color story based on a color scheme. To further understand color schemes, please refer to the packet that is saved digitally, or I have copies in the classroom, and go through the Color Web Quest series of websites and write down answers. Do research to understand the several color schemes that are listed in your packet. Once you have an understanding of that, you're going to choose a color scheme and then create a color story based on the Design Seeds website, which again is in your packet. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up Photoshop. I'm going to hit my Windows button. You have Windows 8 on your computer, so it's a little bit different, but just find the Adobe Photoshop icon. You also have Adobe Photoshop 6, but for our purposes, pretty much everything is the same. I'm going to wait for that to load. While that's loading, I'm going to go on the internet and I'm going to search for photographs in different color schemes. So I'll wait for this tab to load. Close out of that. And I like using Google, as you can see, because it's my default, because it's pretty easy to search for images on Google. So I'm going to start by searching for, let's say I want to do a secondary color scheme or colors inspired by a secondary color scheme. So I'm going to type in secondary color scheme photographs, and you may have to change the way you word things. I'm going to click images. And now I'm going to have to kind of use my knowledge about color schemes to choose a photo that actually has the secondary colors in it, because as you know, not everything posted on the internet is true. For example, this is primary color scheme. This is a primary color scheme because we have blue, yellow, and red. Over here, this is a complementary color scheme because we have two colors, red and green, that are across the color wheel from each other. So just know what color scheme you're trying to represent and what components go into that color scheme. Here's another here is another complementary color scheme, another primary color scheme. I'm looking for secondary. So this lovely picture of these thumbtacks will do the trick because we have orange and green and purple, all secondary colors. But before I choose this, I should look at the resolution here, and it's pretty small. We want a large photo so that it won't get pixelated when we bring it into Photoshop. So I think I'm going to refine my search. I'm going to come up here, and when you search Google Images, you can see Search Tools. I'm going to click Search Tools, and then I am going to go to Size right here, and I'm going to just choose the large photo, so it'll filter out and just bring me large photographs. So then we'll be off to a good start. Scrolling down, we're looking for images with purple and green and orange. Here's a nice painting here. I'll use that. Somebody did a watercolor painting. I'm going to go back, actually. And once you click on an image, if you right-clicked and saved this image in your file or wherever you're saving it, to your desktop, whatever, it wouldn't be the full resolution, the 1600 by 1100. We want to, nope, we don't want that. We're going to click View Image, and then you get the full resolution. So I'm going to right-click here. I'm going to say Save Image As. I'm going to say Secondary Colors, and then you would save it in your folder. I'm just going to save it to my desktop right here. All right, so we're back to Photoshop, and we're going to open up a Photoshop document. So I'm going to go File and say New, because I'm creating a new document. And there's a bunch of different options for you to choose from, and I'm going to name this Secondary Color Scheme, and my last name is White, so I'm going to put that there. 10 by 8 is just fine. I want to always work in inches, not pixels, unless you can magically think in pixels, which I don't believe many people can. Inches is pretty understandable. So if I printed this document off, it would be 10 inches by 8 inches. Let's see, resolution, we always want it at 300. Images for the web are usually at about 72 pixels per inch, but we want to think with this class that we have, in any given project, we have the ability to print it, and 300 resolution is kind of like a unified printing number. If I'm just making things for the web, use RGB color. If you are thinking about printing something, use CMYK color. For this project, you won't see that much of a difference. You'll be able to see a lot of colors either way. My personal favorite is CMYK, and I want my background to be white. So I'm going to say OK. And then Photoshop will create like a blank canvas for me. Now I want to open up a separate document bringing in the photo that I just saved from the internet. So instead of going File New, I'm going to go down to File Open. I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to find wherever I saved that photograph. Here it is. I'm going to click this and I'm going to say Open. And that is going to just place your photo into a sized document. So right now I want to check how many pixels per inch that my image that I brought in from the internet has, because if this has 300 pixels per inch, we want this to have 300 as well. So I'm going to go up to Image, and then I'm going to go down to Image Size, and I'm going to click Image Size. It's 72 pixels per inch right down here. You can leave the size here. If we see it's 22 inches by 15 inches, it's going to be a little bit larger than the canvas that we made. That's okay because we can resize it. We just want the resolution to be the same. So I'm going to change it to 300 and say OK. It got really large, so never fear. I can hold down the Control key, which is the bottom left of your keyboard, and then use the minus key, which is right to the left of your backspace button at the top right of your keyboard. I'm holding down Control and then clicking minus or plus if I want to zoom back in, but Control minus in this situation to resize the picture to fit in the frame. So once I have this ready, I'm going to choose the document that contains the picture that I downloaded. I'm just going to click and drag this off to the side so that I can see both documents at the same time. Then what I'm going to do is go over and make sure that the document with your image is highlighted. So if I had clicked on here, I'm telling the computer I'm working on this blank one. If I click here, I'm telling the computer that I want to do something with my image. So I come over here to the left-hand toolbar. You're going to use a lot of these tools later on. I'm going to click the Move tool, which is the one on top. And then I'm going to click, hold, and then drag this image onto my blank canvas. And again, we have the issue, it's a good issue, of it being large. So I want to make this smaller. So I'm going to hold down Control and hit the T letter. So Control T, and that is telling the computer that I want to transform this image. So I'm just going to click and drag from the top to see, to just drag my picture over so that I can see a corner. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold down Shift and then click and drag this smaller. Holding down Shift helps me keep the proper proportions. If I were to just drag it without Shift, you see I can make this any kind of proportion that I want. And then we don't want that. We want to keep it the same as we found it on the internet so it doesn't look distorted. So if I ever make a mistake in Photoshop, I can hit Control Z, which helps me undo things. So I'm going to, again, hold Shift down a little bit, and we want this to take up the majority of the room, but not all of it, because we want to make color swatches right here. What you want to do after you transform something is double click inside this bounding box right here, because you're telling Photoshop, okay, that's what I wanted to do, now I can move on. A common mistake that people run into is that they try and do something else, and then Photoshop says, hey, wait, you need to apply that transformation. So I can say apply, and then you can keep creating your work. So that's the end of the first video. In the second video, I'm going to show you how to pick colors from this canvas, create color swatches by duplicating layers, and then in another video following that, I'll show you how to create text and gradient.